Okay, so this is the second part. Thank you for being there, the one that you are online. Thank you, Hilal and Iman, for your very good presentations. And here, together with Mr. Kadir, we are gonna try to deep a little bit on what you have been discussing about. So I will start with you, Ivan. Just you were mentioning about the academic and practice. If you will define accessibility, taking into account these two dimensions, the academic and the practice, how would you summarize it?
Thank you for the question, Luis, and thank you again for moderating this panel. Accessibility is a concept that is not easy to define, or inclusive customer experience or universal design. There are many competing concepts that exist, and any search of the literature will show you at least 20, 30, 40 definitions that are available. Definitions of accessibility also change as society changes. What used to be perceived as not accessible may be accessible today and shifted somewhere further, so on. But one thing I believe is that we can all agree that accessibility is a living concept, and it has a legal aspect to it, so things that are defined by legal frameworks and deal with the compliance of accessible environment around us. And also I think there's an ethical part in it, something that comes from the moral stand, how we approach the equal rights and how we ensure that we do everything that we based on. As a word, accessibility, it's not my preferred word. I, for instance, always think that it comes from the word accedere in Italian and Latin, and sort of to enter, to get access to, and so on. I prefer the word inclusive more rather than the accessibility. Accessibility has become a technical term also. It's a very engineering term. I don't know if you would agree to that or not. While if you talk about inclusive, it comes more from the culture perspective, and I think it shows more that it comes from within of us. So we want to be more a family and make sure that everybody feels equal and the same. Okay. That's how I see it, and it would be interesting to hear from you. How do you see in the industry?
Yeah, accessibility term. Inclusivity feels much more intensive. You're right about that.
More personal, right? Yeah.
Because when it comes to accessibility, we always talk about heights or tactile paving like that. But inclusivity, you remember human. You think about human. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so then after getting this, just first landing into the definition, and after your two presentation, I mean, Hilal, you have been throwing out all the presentation. I would like to hear from Mr. Kadir. I mean, all this journey that you have been going through in the Istanbul New Airport. What do you think are the key success factors of the airport in terms of accessibility?
Okay, actually, Hilal mentioned very well, but we focus on independent travel, and to do that, we work with non-government organizations, universities, and disabled passengers to understand their real needs and expectations. So we obviously provide standard solutions to our passengers for disabled passengers, but we want to go beyond these solutions, and we would like to more for that. So what we did exactly, we experienced the whole journey end to end with our disabled passengers, from the gate to entrance, from entrance to gate, and we listen them, because working with them and also listening to them is the heart of everything, to understand the real expectations, to discover it. And also having a job for disabled passengers is very important. So in our team, two disabled colleagues work with us. So we design whole journey with them. Our wonderful colleagues, they really help us. And so, working with non-government organizations, working with universities, working with directly disabled passengers group is the heart of everything to provide better solutions to disabled passengers.
Okay, thank you. It was very interesting. I was thinking now while you were explaining the example that Hilal mentioned, that because I have visited the airport, I have been taking the tour, but I didn't see before this Cafe Yakinda, which I think it was a very good example, because you were mentioning not only about passengers but also about employees, and I think this example of Cafe Yakinda is a good example of having the venue prepared with accessibility, but also the staff with special needs working for serving, as well as the customers. So I think it's a very good venue where you all combine together, right?
Exactly. Taking more active role in their life is important. Not only designing the journey, and taking more active role in their life is also important for disabled.
Okay. I was very impressed with this example as well. Thank you. So, okay, this is what is happening now. Ivan, if we look at history, wherever we're coming from in terms of accessibility, I mean, what will you think on to have a historical perspective?
Well, you know, I like history a lot, and we go way, way, way back. Of course, as societies, and Hilal and I, we had a discussion even before on this, societies, we cannot understand the present if we don't study the past. Sometimes we get very emotional about why things are as they are, and I believe that also from accessibility perspective, you will become a better expert if you really look at the past and the history. The human conditions have been very similar throughout the history, right? So we always had people who had diseases, wars, people without limbs, people that required extra support. In fact, human life was much shorter, and humans have not been so healthy, and the medicine was not so advanced. So in the past, we would have people who require extra support all around us much, much, much more. And as death and as sickness and disabilities were right in your face a lot in the society, of course, there was a lot more cruelty and lack of empathy. But if we go back to, let's say, ancient Greek temples, mentioning Greece in Turkey may be, a bit of an issue, but I'm really happy that the countries are leading a very constructive dialogue. So, and perhaps temples in Turkey as well, in Roman Empire, they had ramps, as many, let's say, archaeologists claim these days. So the logic for having services or for having experiences accessible is not a new idea. And every person of means, let's say rich family, for their children, or when they were becoming older, would provide a different environment, more accessible. So we had the idea of porte-chaise, the chair that you can carry in French, for convenience, not just to go over the mud, but also to make sure that people who are not able to walk on themselves would go around. So history is important, and also mental conditions. Monasteries in Europe serve to be sort of not hospitals, but places where people with disabilities would feel safe and protected a lot. Yes, Luis. So history, I believe, takes us. We've gone a huge journey as a human civilization to be where we are. And if sometimes we feel impatient, we need to look back and see that we've gone a long way. So I'm very optimistic that we are on the right path. And with every decade, we push more and more towards making societies more accessible.
Interesting. This like a reference to many years ago already. Some of the things that we are adopting at the moment also that you mentioned before. So if we come back to more the present time and going back to Istanbul Grand Airport, we saw a big list of all the services that you are offering to increase accessibility. How is the collaboration between the implementation of those solutions, your good practices with other airports, Hilal?
Okay. You know that travel requires at least 2 points. You go from point A to point B. okay, you make your airport accessible, but this won't be enough for people to have an accessible travel because they will use your airport and also the arrival airport. So we need to collaborate with all airports, and we need to share our best practices so that people with disabilities will motivated to travel alone, with their companion is also okay. So you need to make accessible both point A, point B, and all the travel around. So we really like to host other airports in our airport, and also we visit the others. We always have solutions. We always learn from each other. So this is very important for us. Actually, not only airports, sometimes ground handling companies working in other countries also visit us. So you know that in airport, people with disabilities come across with different units, different touch points, and different stuff. They meet with airport employee, ground handling employee, or airline employee, restaurants, shopping area, many different people. And it's not enough to, again, make your solutions, your services accessible, but you have to collaborate with others. You have to, if you train your employees, they also have to be trained. They have to aware these disabilities also, because people or passengers do not know which area is under whose responsibility. So we always like to collaborate with others, with other airports, and share our findings, our solutions. So as we become more accessible, as we have more accessible airports, then people with disabilities will be willing to travel a lot more than that.
Yeah, well, I think it is a good point, because you could be very accessible airport, but if I am flying from A to B, then if the other airport is not accessible, then and I would say in the case of Istanbul Airport, it's not only A B but A B C. you act. I mean, many of the passengers coming here is like a transfer passengers, which are going all around the world. So then they are like not only two airports, but maybe three airports involved, right? And with maybe different roles, whether this is departing and arrival or connecting in your case. And I was just also quite impressed about some of these facilities that you offer. Good. So just to continue, how we can develop this accessibility, and thinking, Ivan, from you were mentioning about the training you are planning to develop. So if you will be thinking in some like a two target group that you were discussing before, I mean, students or people from the industry that they really want to be committed to work in this environment. I mean, not only in the aviation, but also within the accessibility, or as you wanted to mention, for inclusivity point of view. What will be your recommendation to those students and professionals?
How to advance the engagement with accessibility, how to, for some people it's even how to start from level 0, slowly, I would say. I don't think, again, coming to the history, that there is an urgency to rush and also making mistakes, perhaps. I do think that having a personal connection is very important. We all in our families, at some point, we are caretakers, right? And we also want for our loved ones to be there. Understanding what other people feel is a good point. Going around, talking, seeing what's been happening. I'm very grateful that today, for example, in the film industry, in the arts, in the culture, the representation of a human being has become more diverse. So we do see a lot of actors, a lot of even in the commercials of various products. We finally start seeing, for example, fashion shows where actually people with disabilities who collaborate with designers and can show that yes, the clothes can be created for, let's say, different bodies in that sense. So I believe starting engaging with accessibility is not difficult. It's there. Everybody can find their own interest and motivation, passion, how to contribute to the world around. Well, let's say hospital environments, they have done a lot of work to make infrastructure and accessible and easy to move around and so on. So a lot of practices from there. So when it comes to learning and becoming an expert, I think it's important to talk to your employer and to see that you would like to add to that. Every customer experience department in organization needs support. So I think initiative should and would be encouraged. Also, in our universities, we look around on the schools, there's a shortage of this topic. So choosing assignments that deal with accessibility for any course can be a good way to start. Let's say you come to your instructor and say, well, you know what, I will do this assignment, but could I introduce the topic on inclusive or from accessibility point of view? And I can tell you as a university instructor, lecturer, in every course you can find, even if you study entrepreneurship, for example, your customer base could be extended to include, people with disabilities. Or if you study hospitality or aviation, or if you study even banking, financial industry. So you can also think of accessibility of banking services to people with various disabilities. So find that aspect in our human lives that triggers that empathy and triggers that interest that becomes personal, and start changing your learning environment that you can put those topics into the tasks that you're working on. I think that would be the way I believe to start. And then when you have that personal engagement, look for certified training. Hopefully INCLAVI will become one of those. And systematize what you know, and also remain humble in a sense that, like Mr. Kadir said, keep connection to the actual people who represent the community and work with them to verify what's relevant, what's not relevant.
Interesting. So I think I take note, because I think I have a limited, I give a very limited amount of teaching topic to this accessibility. So now I think I feel like with the responsibility to take upon your words and allocate a bit more space to this important topic, and also to bring professionals to your areas, which I think will contribute. So going back to, we moved to the airport environment, where I think it's quite complex, as it was described before, and there are many parties working together. Looking from the accessibility point of view, I'm thinking about airlines, handling companies, restaurants, so all the stakeholders. How do you coordinate? How do you do to coordinate these accessibility services and provision of services in your airport? Take into account all the different stakeholders.
This is actually one of our challenges.
Okay.
Because we have more than 100 units working under the same roof, and we have special ID cards in airport, and as far as I know, 80,000 people have these ID cards. We all work together, and as I said, a person with disability will experience the airport by meeting with all these points, all these people, and it's important to have the same perspective with all of them. So what we did so far, firstly, we prepared an accessibility declaration. Then we shared this declaration with all our stakeholders, and now 32 of our stakeholders signed this declaration. They also committed that they will work for being more accessible, making their services or products more accessible. And the other thing is training is very important. And you know that we have 80,000 people. They have to be trained with the same training material, actually, because even when we work in INCLAVI projects, we had many interviews with people from different companies in aviation sector, we realized that there is no common training model. And even their defining of disability differs among them. Some of them only focus on people with wheelchair. Some of them even don't know about hidden disabilities. So it's very important to have the same training with inclusive method, actually, inclusion of all different types of disabilities. This is very important. So this is why we are very happy to being one of the partner of this INCLAVI project. Okay, now we are not ready. We don't have this training material yet, but what we do now, we have our own training model. It includes the expectations of people with different disabilities, because we always met with them and listened their needs, expectations. We prepared a training material including their needs, expectations, and also our accessibility solutions in the airport. Then we trained our stakeholders, trainers. Then they train their other employees. This is ongoing process. Actually, you know, we have many different stakeholders and many employees. So I think the best solution is training. So
okay, so then there is a lot of pressure then to the coordinator of this project of INCLAVI,
yeah,
to create this training material which will contribute to train all the different stakeholders.
Say for us all, and I would particularly compliment your organization, Ozyegin University, especially yourself and Leila and Mehmet and other teams. You know, you've shown a fantastic example of how to put the project on track and collect many insights. And again, I tell you, we're looking forward to insights from Turkey. Turkey is fantastic aviation market with best practices and best research methods. All of the world, I say very sincerely. So it's a great place to learn.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would like to add to Hilal. She explained very well. But also, we invited our training program disabled passengers to explain, to share their experience to our stakeholders, to our employees. Training is the best way, because providing the same service level at each interaction is the hardest. The point of operational excellence and consistency and continuity is also important. So we invite the disabled passengers to our training program to share their experience about airport airlines.
So up to some extent, we saw this Cafe Yakinda being serving coffees and serving. So in this case, also they are contributing to provide those training as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's very good.
We've
Okay.
been to Cafe Yakinda, actually.
Yanımda, kafe yanımda.
Okay, thanks. Okay, just a couple of more questions I would like to. So one, thinking about the future. So if we think about, we have been talking about what the past, what is happening now at the moment, especially at Istanbul Grand Airport. So Ivan, if we were thinking about the future of accessibility, how do you foresee the future? I mean, imagine that those training programs are up and running. We are actively using here at the university, at the airport, the different stakeholders. How do you see beyond accessibility for the future, beyond that point in time?
You know, there are several future scenarios. Sometimes they say there is an optimistic scenario, there's a pessimistic scenario, maybe realistic. Well, I will say how I see it in a very humble way. First, recently, no matter what advances we've had for the past decades, we see a growing gap between legislation and then law enforcement. Sort of, we see a lot of legal frameworks, guidelines, policy recommendations, and so on. But then we're becoming weaker on the level of the enforcement, how to put them all to practice and guarantee that they are in practice. And then what do we do if not? So I believe a trend in the future, optimistically speaking, will be try to narrow that gap so that every stakeholder would have a very clear path to follow, how to address the issues very fast, very reliable. And then the gap between, let's say, for example, the complaints, how they're handled, right? If something happened like that, so that the compensation or compliance will be put in check very fast. The second trend that I see is that we have become so diverse as the world with so many jurisdiction areas. At the same time, the world is connected and aviation brings people together. So we travel, as you said, across multiple jurisdiction areas, and you may start somewhere in the Southeast Asia, and then you could have several stopovers, and then you will arrive in North America. You might have the world trip around. So one trend would be to try to understand where the global standards could be created and implemented, and believe, very small contribution with the training INCLAVI, let's say, product, it's arriving at that kind of global attempt at a more synchronized, systematically organized training. So it's not just ad hoc, sporadical, like Bilal was saying. And the third trend, I think, is that we will all become old, right? I will be disabled at some point, because the alternative of, is worse, like, stop living, right? So as you age, we have never been old, the world, before. So we're looking forward, and many decision makers say the same thing, that we have not had the societies where, half of the population are retired. So whether we want it or not, accessibility will have to become the status quo. Universal design will have to be the starting point of every design, of every product, of every infrastructure, of every service. So that, I hope, will progress from being just a trend towards being a systemic phenomenon that's underlying that all. So this is how I hope optimistically to see the future. Of course, our planet may not even be there in a few decades.
So it's important because, I think you mentioned this elderly, which at the end, all the population, we are talking about figures I read are about 1 billion people worldwide, about the people who need some. So we are talking about a big
and that number will grow, and their share in the entire population.
Okay.
So, and again, as Hilal and Kadir said, we're talking about a wide spectrum of support needs. So not just the physical, what's typical.
Okay, just for the audience and that visiting the airport, Istanbul airport, you were talking in your presentation about these 8 different segments and sub-segments, but maybe just for giving a further flavor to the audience today, Mr. Kadir, would you like to maybe to highlight some or extend some of those solutions that you are providing for these passengers?
Yes, of course. Hilal mentioned that our business is hospitality. So we conduct regularly passenger satisfaction, passenger expectation survey with independent research companies such as Ipsos or Future, right? And all voice of passengers, all research showed us that there are different level of stress for different touch points. So, for instance, when a mother comes to airport as a mother, her needs and expectations change. When a woman comes from a business woman, her needs and expectations completely change. So, after the conducting research, we divided passengers based on their expectations and needs. Turkish hospitality concept is the center of our customer passenger experience strategy, but we provide 8 different segments, such as disabled passengers, elderly passengers, families with children, youth generation, business people, premium passengers, global passengers, and lastly, pet-friendly airports. So we provided different solutions. For instance, we provide baby care rooms for families, or we provide free of charge buggy services and fast track for elderly passengers. And we design youth lounge. Youth lounge is the first youth lounge in the world, and we designed this youth lounge with university students. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, we work directly the specific passengers group. if we work with Z generation, we work with university students or we work with elder passengers, and we provide the directly beneficial solutions to them. And lastly, we provide pet relief room, pet toilets. So it's very important. We provide 5 different pet toilets for to passengers who travel with their pet, something like that.
Okay, so then the message I get here is that, of course, the needs of this, well, the large group of passengers is very diverse. So then you have a hard job here to try to fulfill the needs of each of them
Yes.
at each point in time. But with all these examples, you are giving a very good service. Thank you very much. I think
A bit of a humor comment, maybe. Kadir, what kind of pets? Because you know the world of pets is very different.
Dogs, birds, or something like
Just
that.
No, not like okay.
okay, good. Okay, so I think we have still about 15 minutes or so. So I would like maybe if we have some questions from the audience. I mean, we would like to get, I mean, either from the audience here, if you would like to make any questions, or the audience online. I mean, we will be happy to get any question.
So I would like to ask, what is the relation between the other stakeholders and the Air Force? I mean, how do you work with the airlines, for instance, or ground handling companies in terms of this?
Yeah, it's a very thank you for that question. I think maybe just to put it in context in Turkey, but using the new terminology. In your case, an important partner is Turkish Airlines. So I guess you have so how do you work in this case with Turkish Airlines as a large amount of passengers who go to your airport? They are Turkish Airlines passengers, right?
Okay, I would like to start with. Yeah, Turkish Airlines is very important for us, and we work with them very close. Their customer experience team and our Istanbul Airport customer experience team work together. We set the regular meeting with them, and we discuss all pain points. We discover the pain points together, and we design the passengers journey together, and we determine the actions, and we follow the performance of our actions. So it is very important to work with Turkish Airlines. So we do that. But apart from Turkish Airlines, we have 98 different airlines. So we should work with them collaboratively, and also there are 4 ground handling companies at Istanbul Airport. So we have good relation and very close relationship with all of them. Yeah.
And I can give a good example. For instance, when we shared our best practices, our solutions with Turkish Airlines, you know, okay, we launched a sunflower lanyard program. We trained our employees, but our passengers, after leave our airport, they will take the flight. And what about aircraft employees? In order to have end-to-end this recognition of people with hidden disabilities, it was important to collaborate with them, so that they also joined this sunflower lanyard program. They trained all their staff, and now this is better because, you know, our airports, our employees recognize people with sunflower lanyard. The aircraft employees recognize, and then maybe their arrival airport, the staff also recognize them. So this is one of the best examples of our collaboration with Turkish Airlines.
And also, we also sharing our training program each other. For instance, Hilal train their employee, ground handling companies employee or airlines employee. So sharing the training program is the other beneficial solution.
So I guess, I mean, Turkish Airlines has been one of these 22 partners who have already just signed up the declaration,
Yes.
right? and you are still working for to reach the 100. Good, thank you. We have a question from the audience, from Mohammed Shakir Ibrahim, which is, we have found a growth ratio for the increase in the population of passengers with hidden disabilities in Turkey and globally. So are we feeling, I mean, maybe you can say, the question is, are we having an increased number of passengers with special needs, both in Turkey and globally? Who wants to answer that question?
Actually, the numbers are showing that, especially, for instance, the Sunflower Lanyard program or sensor rooms are first designed in UK. And because according to their numbers, the number of people with autism was getting higher and higher. And now we know that more and more people are told that they have autism, and it's a spectrum. They have many different types of autism. And some people say that because of this technology, tablets and children are showing more autism-like behaviors. So we know that the numbers are getting higher, but even the number is getting higher. Sometimes families do not want to accept this truth, because it's very hard to have a child with autism. It's a challenge for them for all their life. So now I think as people are raising their awareness about this issue, maybe we will hear more and more that even they have autism, but they didn't want to make this accepted by a doctor. But now people are more aware of these subjects and can see that people are thinking about their needs. They try to have solutions for them. So not only the real number is getting higher, but more people are aware of these hidden disabilities, and they are willing to accept
the situation.
this.
Okay, so then this, so it's like more people are willing to accept, and maybe also what Ivan was mentioning before. I mean, the life expectation is increasing. So, and people still travel when
people travel more. I mean, somewhere I encountered a very strange number that, let's say, only 5 to 7% of the entire world population have ever taken a flight.
Yeah. Well, this is
so that can still keep growing. So I agree with what Hilal was saying, in the sense that we will see more and more numbers. And also people are more accepting, I think, as you said, yes, about identity. Yes, I can identify myself as an autistic person, or I can identify myself as any other limitation on in that sense.
Okay, so thank you. I think, do we have any more? I don't have any more questions in the chat. Any more questions here in the audience? So I think we can be closing. I mean, I just wanted to say, because it was about this, a message of increasing the numbers, which I think is good, because we are more awareness, the number of increases, so that we have to be aware. I think we have to be a bit careful about not growing too much, because then we have another issues in the industry, which is emissions and so on, which they enter into conflict about this big growth. So then, but this will be another topic for another day. I wanted to really appreciate the time to come over to our university today to share how interesting things you are doing at Istanbul Great Airport, introducing us about this INCLAVI project, Inclusive Aviation. I think we are all really looking forward to get those training material to be available at some time in the near future. I am the first one ready to implement it in my courses with my students as well. So thank you very much. We are finishing here. Thank you for you being here today, as well as the people in the audience, and see you in our next event. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.